Sometimes liars get exposed on paternity court.
But I thought it was cool to go mess with one of his friends because he had slept with one of mine.
Well, when I looked in the room, Jennifer's grandmother was holding her, and Dee Dee was laying in the bed, and I just proceeded to go to my girlfriend's room.
Miss Cherry brought Mr. Johnson to court because she believed he is her biological father. She says that she was adopted within the family because both her biological parents signed their rights over. However, both adopted parents abandoned her too, and people said her parents gave her up because they didn't love her.
I am just looking for closure. I was adopted, within family, so I know who my mother is and everything, but I was adopted within family, and certain family members have always made the statements that my parents just didn't love me and that's why they gave me up.
Mr. Johnson says he was never around Cherry and he doesn't think he is her father. He says he's very sympathetic to Miss Cherry's journey, but doesn't think he's the father because a family member of Jennifer's mother told him they'd found the real father already. What he reveals next changes the entire story.
I can't even imagine, Miss Cherry, what you've gone through, having to hear, and then to have to go through this pretty much alone. And so you've been strong enough to make it to this point. You've been told Mr. Johnson is your biological father your whole life.
Yes, sir.
You've never been given another name.
No, Your Honor.
Apparently, Mr. Johnson's girlfriend was also pregnant at the time. He says Cherry's mother sent a note through her neighbors saying she wanted to sleep with him. He says he'd had one too many beers and decided to sleep with her. He says she was indeed a virgin when they had sex for the first time.
Mr. Johnson, do you believe Miss Cherry's mother was a virgin? Is that what we were told? Was that your understanding?
At the time we slept together, I did believe that she wasn't a virgin because of the events that took place after the fact.
So at the time you thought she was a virgin?
Yes.
Did you use protection?
No, I did not.
Mr. Johnson found out about the pregnancy through the neighborhood grapevine. Apparently, several people came up to congratulate him on his daughter, but he thought they were talking about his girlfriend's baby. He went to the hospital to visit his son after his girlfriend gave birth and experienced the shock of a lifetime.
When I got to the hospital, someone had said, "Are you here to see your daughter?"
Did you say, "Where is this baby"?
Well, when I looked in the room, Jennifer's grandmother was holding her, and Dee Dee was laying in the bed, and I just proceeded to go to my girlfriend's room.
Turns out his girlfriend and Miss Johnson's mother had given birth at the same time in the same hospital. He says most people thought he was there for Miss Cherry's birth, which was not the case. He says someone in Jennifer's family told him they'd found the actual father. Will the DNA test finally tell us something?
Mr. Johnson, you are not the father. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I was hoping to get closure for you today, Miss Cherry.
It's okay.
You are so deserving and worthy, and even though I could not give you the answer you wanted, I've given you one of the answers you needed.
Mr. Nicola appears in court in tears while talking to Judge Lauren about his potential baby. He says the child he believes is his son has a great bond with him and is very attached. It makes him emotional that this might be the first child that he'll get to see grow up. However, what Judge Lauren reveals next changes everything.
What type of relationship have you developed with Errol, Mr. Nicola?
I come home from work, he smiles, crawls over to me. I leave, he cries until she comes home. He's just like my little buddy.
And what does that relationship mean to you? Can you tell the court?
It means more than anything because he's the first one I'm actually going to get to see grow up.
After Mr. Nicola reveals that Arrow could potentially be his cousin, Mr. Eddie's child, the courtroom is shocked. He says he will be happy for his cousin regardless because it will be his first time being a father. He says he will also be happy for the woman he loves, Kyla, as she previously suffered a miscarriage.
That this could be your cousin's baby. Does that eat away at you?
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm happy because it'll be his first. And I'm happy for Kayla regardless because me and her had our miscarriage and it really tore her apart.
Your mother submitted a statement to the court.
The real shocker comes when Judge Lauren reveals Mr. Eddie and Mr. Nicola's mothers are identical twins. Talk about a situation that can tear a family apart. both mothers submitted statements to the court saying they believe they are the true grandmothers and are very attached to Arrow. Mr. Nicola's mom is even involved in his full-time care.
She says, I believe my son is Arrow's father. When she took the pregnancy test, I said, okay, who's the dad? And she said it had to be Nathan because her and Cordell hadn't done anything. I even offered to pay for a DNA test when Arrow was 2 to 3 months old, and she refused.
Mr. Eddie's mother says the confusion has caused a huge rift between the identical twin sisters, and she hopes today's results will heal it. She says she even offered to pay for the DNA test, but Kayla refused to get one done. Miss Endicott, who is the third sister, says Kayla has been telling both men that they are the fathers.
What do you know about this man?
I do know that she tells Nathan all the time, you're the daddy. Then she'll go back to Cordell and say, you're the daddy. I just want it done and over with. And if it's Nathan, that's cool. He needs to be a daddy, be in the life. And if it's Cordell, she needs to leave Nathan alone so he can go on.
Mr. Eddie says he wasn't even at the birth because Kayla had an emergency C-section that Mr. Nicola was around for. He hopes today's test goes in Mr. Nicola's favor because Kayla has tried to cut Mr. Eddie out of hers and Arrow's life. Judge Lauren asked Kayla if anyone is on the birth certificate. The answer will shock you.
Oh, you put Mr. Nicola on the birth certificate?
Yes.
Was that because he was with you or because you all made a decision? Was it a three-way consultation?
No, Your Honor. He was there at the birth, and I felt like Nathan wasn't even ready if it was his own son because he didn't have a job. He didn't have a vehicle. He still lived with his parents.
That's when Kayla reveals she put Mr. Nicola on the birth certificate. When asked why, she says she didn't consider Mr. Eddie because he doesn't have a job or a car, and he still lives with his parents. Judge Lauren says you need to pick the father based on biology, not on how suitable a father someone will be.
If somebody told me that I had a son and he was being born, I don't care if I had to hitchhike. I would be at the hospital the day after.
So you felt like because he didn't get there, he wasn't as committed, which only reaffirmed the reason why you decided Mr. Nicola is going to be the best father for the baby. I'm putting his name on the birth certificate.
And I believed he was.
Mr. Eddie says it broke his heart when he was left out of the birth because he thought Kayla loved him enough to not do this to him. He says if the child is Mr. Nicola's, he's gonna leave them alone and let them be a happy family so he can also heal in peace. So what's going to be the end of this tragic family saga?
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Nicola.
Miss Williams brings Mr. Glover to court because she is sure he is her son Ricardo's biological father. Mr. Glover, on the other hand, completely denies it. Ricardo has cerebral palsy and has a major surgery coming up for which the doctors require the identity of his father. But Mr. Glover says his brother is actually Ricardo's father.
Your Honor, I haven't seen this man in years. My son has cerebral palsy. He's undergoing a surgery because now he has a magnetic rod in his back because he has scoliosis, so they're gonna put the real rod, the real spinal rod in his back. I'm not his blood type, so if he need a blood transfusion, he need the absent parent.
Mr. Glover says he hasn't seen his alleged son in 5 or 6 years. The last time he saw him was when Miss Williams took him to court for child support. The court required Miss Williams to submit to a DNA test, but she kept putting it off. He said when she refused the second or third time, he just moved to another state.
If you truly thought you were Ricardo's father, believed, or that test had taken place, and it was determined you were the father, you would have been happy to be his father.
Yes, ma'am.
This man took my virginity, so I don't know how he feel. I don't care how he feel, but he took my virginity. This is his child. It's nobody else.
Miss Williams says he took her virginity and she did not sleep with anyone else in the time frame that Ricardo was conceived. Mr. Glover says they dated for around a year, but weren't exactly exclusive. The only question left for Judge Lauren to ask is, what made him suspect Miss Williams was being unfaithful?
So what makes you believe if she was a virgin when you met her that so quickly after meeting you, she would be with other guys too?
Because like initially, that's what it was. Like besides that, I heard something from my mother. And it was like, after that, it just kind of threw me for a loop.
I'd like to hear from your mother. Ma'am, please stand and step over to the podium.
Mr. Glover says his mother told him about Miss Williams being unfaithful. His mother takes the stand next and says she saw Miss Williams performing various sex acts on another guy in the neighborhood. She also saw her coming out of the same guy's car at another time. This is a shocking development for the entire courtroom.
So you're saying you saw her with this person before she was pregnant and then after she had the baby?
Yes.
Which led you to believe this was an ongoing relationship.
I feel like that wasn't the only relationship this young lady was involved in.
His mother says Mr. Williams was involved with her other son, and it is likely he is the father. Mr. Glover produces text messages in which his brother says Ricardo looks more and more like him every day. Mr. Glover asks his brother if he's the father, but doesn't get the truth out. Can the DNA test do that instead?
Mr. Glover, you are the father.
That's all. What's up? Like, what's up?
That's your handsome boy.
And I just want to say I'm sorry, but like it could have been handled. And like I said, I apologize though.
You need to apologize to him too. He'll understand it.
Miss Shands has brought Mr. Hollis to court to confirm the paternity of her young son, Aiden. She says Mr. Hollis is her first love and is also the guy she lost her virginity to. When this resulted in her pregnancy, he denied the child. Mr. Hollis says Miss Shands is a pathological liar who is extremely untrustworthy.
What do you want to accomplish today?
Today, I would like to accomplish that Amir is the father of my child. He has been in my baby life ever since my baby has been 3 months. He's my first love, my first kiss, my first everything. And today, I just want to know the truth about. I want to prove to him that he is the father of my child.
Miss Shands hopes the high school sweethearts can finally be a family, but Mr. Hollis's revelations make it look a little hard. Apparently, Miss Shands has cheated on him multiple times. She says they both cheated on each other with each other's friends because they were fighting. They both admit doing so was a mistake.
She used to come back and tell me that Mr. Amir, he was messing with one of my friends. And we both were young at the time.
Both y'all young now?
Yeah, we still are young. We still are young. But I thought it was cool to go mess with one of his friends because he have slept with one of mine.
Miss Shands says she engaged in revenge sex with one of Mr. Hollis's friends, and it went on for quite some time. They did not use protection. She says her godmother kept saying she might be pregnant, and so she went to the clinic one day and found out she was 5 months along. The courtroom is quite shocked to hear this.
So you find out you're 5 months pregnant. What happens? Who do you tell?
Well, first I told his friend.
So the friend you cheated on him with, and the next thing you know, y'all end up going.
Yes, we end up going
what she
out.
saying don't matter. When she was going with my friend, she was still sneaking around with me anyway because I felt like he did it to me. So y'all together, I'm finna go and do what I gotta do.
She says she was seeing someone else at the time, and she told him she was pregnant. He was quite happy to hear the news. Mr. Hollis heard the news from other people, but in the end, Miss Shands told him there was a possibility he was the dad. She didn't tell the other guy about any possibility in terms of paternity.
Miss Shands, when you give birth, who was with you?
The friend was with me when Aiden was born.
I sent my mom there because I knew there was a possibility that my son could be the dad as well. He favored my son when he was born.
I wasn't never invited. Like anything I ever found out about the baby, I found out about myself. Like I ain't even know she was in labor. I had to find that out.
Mr. Hollis says he wasn't included in any part of the birth. He found out from someone else while he was in school about Miss Shands going into labor. Miss Shands says the other guy was with her the entire time because she was seriously seeing him at the time. Mr. Hollis's mother says the baby looked like her son.
And what did she say, Mom?
It's a possibility.
So you admitted that it was a possibility?
Yes, Your Honor, I did admit that it was a possibility.
Okay, so from that point, when you decide the baby looks more like Mr. Hollis, does the other guy sign the birth certificate?
No, he didn't have his ID at the time. That's why he didn't sign.
He wasn't intending on signing.
Judge Lauren begins asking the real questions. Mainly, Who signed the birth certificate? She says no one did because the other guy didn't have his ID on him. When she FaceTimed Mr. Hollis's family, everyone said the child looked like him. Even the grandma says there's a chance the child might be her grandson.
So to this day, the other person doesn't know that Mr. Hollis could be Aiden's biological father?
He hears it off the streets because everybody on the streets tell him that the baby look like Aiden, the baby look like Amir, the baby look like Amir.
He think he his child.
But in his mind, he's running around the streets saying, this is my baby.
Ms. Shan says everyone kept saying the kid looked a lot like Mr. Hollis, which is why she began suspecting the father is actually Mr. Hollis. She says that she's had no such conversation with the other guy, and he's mostly in the dark about this situation. So, what is the DNA test going to say about this high school drama?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hollis, you are not the father. I see tears in your eyes, Ms. Shan, because I know how desperately you wanted Mr. Hollis to be Aiden's biological father.